Startup Grind, as you know, and maybe also our listeners and viewers should know, this is a global community for startups. We have over 200 or more chapters around the world, and most of our events, like this one, will actually be uploaded online on our YouTube channel. So we want to make sure that the amazing information that we will have here live, and you will be able to ask questions and engage with Donna, will also be available to others. So again, how are you this evening, now that we all know what to expect?
How am I? That's a loaded question these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm in Israel. I'm here, guys. I'm with you. I'm with you. And never in a million years did I imagine that I would be here. I mean, we waited 3 years to come.
Yeah.
Last time we were here, it was still Corona, and I was nervous the whole time that we'd have a negative test and wouldn't be able to leave. And we moved 2
The
days
little
after
problems.
and now it's a bit of a different pickle that we're in, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is that, you know, initially our flight was canceled when the rocket landed near Netbag, and we were like, do we do this anyway? Do we not? Do we try to find another flight? And for my daughter's bat mitzvah, which did not happen. It was supposed to be on Friday. And we told our girls, listen, here's the situation. We were honest with them. There could be a siren here and there, a rocket here and there. Once upon a time, remember them? But, you know, we'll be able to celebrate with the family, or we go to Europe and just meet Saba Safta and Grandma. They chose to come.
And you know what?
We're the parents, and we're feeling very, very guilty. But they're amazing, and their resilience. Kids are amazing. They're so resilient. They're so incredible. And we're trying to shield them as much as possible. And we hope that they won't be scarred for life. But here we are. I mean, this is going to be a story for them one day.
And that's what I was just about to say, because we are starting this event with a story. You know, people will watch it in the next week or even in a few years' time. So at this very moment, Israel and Iran are in war. Iran is attacking Israel, civilians, very bad, which means that even this conversation can be stopped for whatever we would need. We hope not. So this is a very, very crucial situation. Myself, actually, I flew to Berlin to give a few workshops, and I'm stuck here in Berlin right now. But as you said, resilience is the key. The show must go on, and we're really happy that we were able to do this event instead of at Google campus offices online. So even to give you our listeners, viewers, ecosystem, just a bit of time off from everything and to enjoy with Donna's amazing stories and energies.
About life for a while, as we say.
Exactly.
My love, Billy Joel.
So before we dive in, I'll just give a bit of an overview again. Who are you? Why are we here today? And as I said before, I have so many questions for you. And we also know each other for over a decade now. I wish I could have hugged you physically.
Exactly how long? My daughter turned 12.
11.
More than that. My daughter turned 12 on June 2nd. And I met you when I was pregnant with her. Hello? Hello? What happened? You guys? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Was that me, or was that like the Houthim or something?
I think I had a glitch here.
You had a glitch, but I see everybody else is opposite.
Sorry.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, I'm hearing an echo. So you're on twice.
Now it should be okay.
All righty.
I believe so. All right. So
Devon and I met right when I got pregnant with my bat mitzvah. It was a very, very unforgettable meeting. Another time. But
maybe one day we'll tell you.
That means almost 13 years, my dear. And you were just
exactly
with the networking. We both spoke in an event, remember?
Yeah, Microsoft event. And I remember much of this event. It was, Microsoft event, again, around those 12 years ago. And today we brought you here. And just to make sure people, I'm sure everyone is here knows you, but we are here at the Fireside Chat with Donna. And we are, before we'll start diving in, then just so you know who is here with us on screen. So Donna Griffit is a world-renowned corporate storyteller, pitch alchemist, and best-selling author. And I know how hard it is of sticking to my story. If you want to show it to us, The Alchemy of Storytelling for Startups, Sticking to My Story. I always thought it's a brilliant name, and obviously such good information and content, which you'll learn a bit more soon. Donna has worked globally for over 20 years with Fortune 500 companies, startups. I'm sure some of you worked with her as well, and investors in a wide variety of industries. And she has consulted and trained clients in over 30 countries, helping them create, edit, and deliver verbal and written presentation, pitches, and messages. Now, she has the ability, and if you've worked with her, you know, to magically spin raw data into compelling stories that captivate audience and drive to results. And we might even have a few of those pitches today. And through her guidance, clients has raised over $2 billion, only $2 billion. And Donna is also a communication coach for Stanford Graduate School of Business. I would love to share more about it, talk with you about it, helping the leaders of tomorrow become stellar communicators. And she also has a company called, or a platform, sorry, called Deck Check, which is, again, a brilliant name, which could check your deck. And we'll get to it soon.
Guys, I see that we're cutting in and out. Is this the
Mhm.
platform? I think
Maybe it's here, but Shachar, if you want to come on, Shachar also could maybe
yeah,
cover me if there is any
yeah.
issues
Hello,
right now.
Shachar.
Shachar has also the information on the questions, so he could cover me if there is any issue. So to dive in, please share with us. I know it's a big question, but what's the story behind Donna Griffith? So how did you enter this world of storytelling and really created your own segment of storyteller?
Great. Well, I was calling myself a storyteller back in 2008, 9, when people still were asking me, is that Yosef Meseper Sipurim? Is that Festival Akko? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So it all happened. I was a communications consultant for since 2003. I gave workshops all around the world, training people in presentation skills and business writing skills. And then came 2008, which was another fork in the road where people had a very big, tumultuous time in their lives. And I was here in Israel. I was living here. Yeah, I had just returned in 2006. I had lived in New York for 6 years. And I was scared to death. I had an entire year of work get canceled off the calendar. The first thing that happens when an economic downturn happens is they cancel travel and they cancel any training that is not essential. Apparently, being able to sell or being able to communicate is not essential. And then I was like, what am I going to do? I've never had a job. I've always worked for myself ever since I was a kid. And what now? And serendipity would have it that I was introduced to a cardiothoracic surgeon named Professor Donna Griffit. He today is the head of Beilinson, and he of the heart department. I feel like I'm talking to myself. I just want to make sure people are still here and hearing. If everybody can like say hi in the chat, that would be great. Yes. So anyway, he needed help with his professional speeches, and then he showed me 2 medical devices he had invented. He said, I'm invited to this angel conference in New York. This was 2009. And I need to give a 5-minute pitch for each. Can you help me? I said, well, I've never written an investor pitch before, but a story is a story. So I helped him write it. I went with him and I actually ended up presenting on his behalf, which is probably the only time I've ever done that with a company, but this was for circumstances. And there were about 80 something angel investors in the room. And a couple other companies from Israel had been invited to pitch for 5 minutes. And the other companies get up to pitch and they were shot down in the first 3 minutes. And my heart just broke for them. And I'm like, why would they come here and not hire someone like me to help them? Why? And then I was like, rega, wait. And I started checking, and there was nobody that really owned the startup space in terms of pitching. And I'm like, okay, that's my new audience. And then you hear the voices going, startups will never pay you. Startups don't. And then
I remember that.
and that's when you have to say, thank you very much. I will. Now, my family's motto is a Latin motto. We had to, my husband made a family crest when we got married, and we had to have a Latin motto, and it's aut viam aut veniam in viam aut veniam aut faciam. I will either find a way or I will make a way. And I made a way. And I did what I called sponsorship as a service. And I started saying to all the accelerators and all the pitch competitions, bring me on to work on the demo day pitches. All you have to do is put my logo and thank me at the event. And my name started being associated with kick-ass pitches. And people were like, Mizota Donna Zot, who's Donna, 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 Donna? Which my name is actually Donna, but nobody can say that. But that's okay. That's another story. And little by little, I started getting the business. And by the time I left Israel in 2015, I was the pitch person. There really weren't that anyone. Like people were starting to come up. And that was it. And it's just grown since then. And I had to completely do it all over again when I moved to Silicon Valley because I was a little nothing burger there.
Yeah.
That's the
So
story.
you did it with the same strategy at the Silicon Valley?
Similar.
Yeah.
I did a lot of outreach, a lot of cold outreach, a lot of networking,
Yeah.
a lot of like, who do I know? Anyone that I knew that was there. I didn't know a lot of people asking for help, asking for connections. People were not all very nice, except Amir Shvat, if you all know him, he's the best. I knew him from Israel. He moved to the States back about a month before I did. And he made a lot of connections. And of course, Gil Ben Alzi, I'd been with Up West for a long time, and that was great. But a lot of people were just like, yeah, I'm busy. Talk to me. That's when I learned the Silicon Valley expression. I'm heads down. I'm heads down. Talk to me in a month. Well, it's like I'm busy. Which is basically their way of saying, step off, bitch.
Exactly.
Until like one guy that did this to me walks in when I was coaching pitches for a Google pitch competition. I had already, made some connections, and he walks in with a startup that he had invested in. And he texts me, how you doing? So good to see you. And I'm like, oh, so good to see you too. You have to play the game, but it's like if somebody sometimes wants something from you, then all of a sudden they're really nice. So
exactly. Well, we're also going to talk about Silicon Valley vibes, even though you can kind of share it a bit. But I didn't hear, I never heard the story of how you started the way you just shared it now. So even for me, it's a surprise. But I know that you've built your profession and what you do so hard for so many years. And if you want to take all this great experience, what are the key components of a winning pitch? I mean, the must-have in slides, and why is storytelling such a crucial part of it? Because obviously we have so many entrepreneurs here that have pitched or will pitch. So what are some winning slides, and why do we need storytelling in the deck in any case?
Okay. So there's several layers to your question that you're asking. First of all, storytelling is more than just like, hey, how you doing? Here's a joke. There's several components of storytelling built into the deck. First of all, it's the structure. And in my book, I had to break it down into units that people could understand how it's built. Now, growing up a theater baby, acting, studying theater, I'm a total theater nerd. I gave a keynote in Athens last year, and I got to go to the Parthenon and see the theater where they all would run their original plays, the ancient Greeks. And for me, it was like standing in front of Taylor Swift's house, basically. But theater is one of the oldest types of writing. And if you look at the old Greek tragedies, Shakespeare, Molière, Chekhov, you'll see that there is a very specific structure, acts of the play, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5. Now, this is also the basis for Hollywood scripts. Basically, the same 8 archetype scripts get written again and again and again. We still go pay whatever, how much is a ticket now in Israel? 100 shekels and popcorn. We go pay for a movie, even though we kind of know what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. But the twists and the turns keep us there. But we know in our head that there's no way they're going to kill the hero. And we know in our head that he's going to end up with the beautiful woman or she with the beautiful man, and someone good is going to be bad and someone bad is going to be good. So we want to take that structure, and that's how our brains have evolved communicating through those messages. It's how we take in information and how we have created survival of our stories, of our messages, and how we communicate it to others. So the 4 modules, the 4 acts of your investor deck are The problem or the opportunity is act one. The solution, what you're doing, act two. The business to back it up is act three. And what's next? The vision for the future is act four.
Mhm.
Now, before all of you out there are like, no, bemet, problem solution, seriously? That's what the Silicon Valley bitch has, sorry, excuse me, pitch, which has to bring to us. Yeah, it's old. It's in fact about 36,000 years old. That's when storytelling was first recorded, before we even had language. And it works because it's the way we're used to thinking. Now, I'm sitting here in front of a building, which I hope has a strong frame. We'll know tonight, right? And I see windows and a garden and walls. I don't see the frame. I kind of trust it's there because the building's still standing. So my framework is a frame that becomes transparent. You don't see
Mhm.
it, but it helps you as the founder organize it. So that's the
Yeah.
basis of storytelling. And then there's other components of stories that we layer in. Okay. My mother-in-law made a beautiful bat mitzvah cake for my daughter. And there's the cake. And then there's
Mhm.
a sugar sheet with a beautiful painting and a happy birthday lily on it. And then there's marzipan flowers. And then there's, I don't know what else she put on there. Beautiful things, macarons. And so we layer in story upon story in order to keep people engaged, in order to provoke their thoughts, in order to engage them. And it's
So basically, stories are all around us. We live with and through stories, as you said, like for thousands of years. Even like networking, people sometimes tell me, "No, this is a new thing," and no, it's not a new thing. But with that in mind, because we do it, we live it, we know what it is. What do founders keep missing? I mean, what is the missing in their either investor pitch and even sales pitch, which maybe the stories should be a bit different. Could be.
דונה, את על מיוט.
how does this keep happening? Okay, sorry, where was I when you heard me last? How did I go to mute? Stop playing with the controls, Shachar.
לא, רק
Okay, where?
תתחילי
English.
כאילו
So can
מהפרזנטר
you go
פה.
back and you answer back the question
Okay,
of the what is the one thing we're missing with the
this whole
yeah
time I was on mute. Oh, holy crap.
yeah
Okay, let me try to go back.
we're going
Um,
to edit it. Don't worry.
okay, so we need to understand who it is that we're talking to,
Yeah.
who our audience is. It's about them. It's about their questions, their needs, their wants, their aspiration. Whereas investors want to 10x their investment in you.
Mhm.
And you have to tell them the story of your users, but also how they're going to make a boatload of money. With a client, it would be directly their pain, their need, their loss, their life, their aspiration, and you're talking empathetically to them and why
Mhm.
they need you and why you're different and why you're going to make their lives better, fuller, and more powerful, and make them a lot more money and you know grow their hair back and whatever. So you have to focus on the audience. And my
Mhm.
framework is built completely, if you kind of took a microscope and looked at it,
Mhm.
around the audience questions. And it's
Yeah.
in a very intentional order. And I've already done a lot of work for you breaking it down. So we start with their questions about what's the problem you're solving? How are you connected to it? And that's where your origin story comes in. Your passion, your connection, your creation. And I have so many good origin stories I've heard over the years. And then only once you've established that, you talk about, okay, this is not just our story. This is a big story numbers, stats, the market.
Mhm.
Only then do you start talking about yourself. So the main thing people get wrong is they talk about their solution. They talk about their technology. They talk about why
So
it's
true.
the best thing ever, and they miss the other side completely. And they talk to here, they don't talk to the heart or the gut. I went 3-point presenting: mind, heart, gut, because really decisions get made from your heart and your gut.
So true. So many times we tend to speak about again ourselves or feeling what we experience, but then it doesn't really click with the other side. And that's so important what you just said now. And I think it's also, I know for me at the beginning of my career, I used to also pitch things in similar ways until I really understood, no, that you need to reverse it and you need to adjust your pitch to whoever you speak with. And that's so important. And on our preliminary call, we also talked about some, I would say, social, behavioral, I would say, ways or tips or hacks. I mean, we as human, we are acting in a certain way, and there are different words or way to present things that could also maybe prime the other side to find more interest in us, to want to help us. So when we come to the science of storytelling and the science of behavior and people, how do you have any hacks or tip or those little things that make the story or the communication much memorable and create an influence with the investor or client to want to work with you or invest in you?
Absolutely. So there's something magical that
Mhm.
happens when we tell a story and someone listens to our story. You know how
Mhm.
you'll meet someone at an event and you'll just be like, oh, we were on the same wavelength right away?
Yeah.
It's not lip service. There's been studies done that show that they actually measure people's brain waves when someone's telling a
Mhm.
story and someone's listening, and the brain waves actually sync up. So when you
Mm.
have taken someone in a way that they are so enraptured by your story and they're also nodding because it's they're agreeing with it. Now talk about science.
Yeah.
There's part of our brain called the insula. And the
Mhm.
insula is what indexes all of our experiences. And when someone tells a story, our brain starts going, that reminds me of this experience that I had. See, we're alike, we're connected, we have similarities. And then you have this amazing power of influence with the person. Now, I mean, hopefully we'll all use that for good, but
Yeah.
people want to buy from people that are like them. People want to do business with people that are like them. There's all these, I'm listening to a great book now called Influence. It's a bit old, but
Yeah.
it's
Robert Cialdini.
yeah. So he talks about how car salesmen will say, "Oh, you like skiing? Oh, I go skiing. You like golf? Oh, hey, I like." Suddenly, they're everything to everyone. Now, again, you don't want to make it cheesy. You want to make it really authentic. But a story usually will make people either say, "Oh my God, that reminds you of the time of our." Oh my gosh, that's an incredible story. I would never want that happening to me. So that's when you're creating connection upon connection and it becomes memorable. Now, if you want to hear something funny,
Yeah.
one of the stories I tell in my book is the story of Cura Life. And it's an Israeli company and I worked with for many years, Ron Elul. We helped them raise 2 rounds of several tens of millions of dollars. And when the book came out and he gave me permission to write his story in there, it's an amazing origin story of how he started Cura Life. His father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and he set out to basically help his father save his life. Okay,
Mhm.
that's a great story. You guys can read about that there. But what's funny, and you won't read in the book, little behind the scenes. Around the time my book came out, one contacted me and said, "Can you work with my sales staff on the story?" And
Mhm.
I said, "Sure, of course." And they sent me the deck and he introduced me to the VP sales and the US director of sales. And I look at the deck and it's really pretty. It's got a lot of herbs and things. And I'm like, "Guys, where's the story?" And they said, "What story?" I said, "The Ron and Raphael story. Where's the story?" And they're like, "We're talking to Walgreens and to Whole Foods. We got 15 minutes. We don't have time for stories." And I said, "There is always time for a story." I mean, I was at Startup Grind at the conference in Silicon Valley at the pre-conference the day before, a couple months ago,
Mhm.
and they had 1 minute to present on stage, the startups. 1 minute. And they came
Mhm.
to me and I was like churning them out. "Give your pitch. Here's your pitch back," like kind of like we're going to do, but it was for 1 minute pitches. You have 1 minute, you have time for a story. You have 30 seconds, you have time for a story. You have 10 minutes, you have time for a story. Because story, if you think they're going to remember how many capsules are in a bottle, what herbs are made with, what's your process of doing it, or what your technology is, nobody is going to remember that. But what will they remember? the story of a young man who stopped his life to go save his father's life and basically did.
Mhm.
And that told me something mind-blowing. Both the VP sales and the US director of sales had fathers who were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in their 50s. And I
Wow.
said, do you guys realize that you are the company that half the C-suite is in it because they have skin in the game and is personally
Yeah.
impacting their lives? Do you know what kind of story that is, that all the Walgreens and Whole Foods people are going to go back and tell their team and give you prime shelf space?
Yeah.
Use those stories, because that people do not remember numbers. They don't remember facts and figures and technologies. They'll want to know all those things, but what they remember at the end of the day is the stories you tell, how it made them feel, how it resonated with them.
This is such an important point and such a great story of why it's so important to use story, even if you have a minute on stage. And obviously you can't stress it enough, because it is what differentiate one than other and make you get you in the deal flow or out of the deal flow, of course. And considering, you know, the campaign is good, but I want to talk also about taking stories and let's connect them to this reality. You know, we all have small stories, big stories, you know, big could be, you know, got stuck in Israel, got stuck in Berlin, and small could be, you know, I would just, I think I just shared with you. I was with my friend, and her baby doesn't know me, but she said to the mom, "I love you," and then she said to the grandma, "I love you," and I'm like, "Do you love me?" And she's like, "Yes, of course I love you." This is a small story, and it teaches so much about how we're trying maybe to please others, how we want to be likable. I mean, every small thing can be a story. So how do you identify the little like, you know, irrelevant incidents of the day to day, and how do you turn them into a story that could help us sell?
You're always looking for them. You always are doing story spotting. That's what you need to do. So I gave a workshop at Meta in Menlo Park last year, and it was a big product team, and they were telling me about two different styles of senior people at Meta, Facebook. I won't tell you who, but you probably can
Mhm.
guess. They're like, one is very dry, very matter of fact when he gives like the whole hands on. And another one, he's like, I found a Post-it on my table the other day. And I saw on the Post-it that was written, da, 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 da. And he like took that whole thing and then he turned it into a story for the all hands.
Mhm.
It could be the smallest piece of paper. It could be the smallest interaction, but it's human and it's something that impacted you. And you were able to do like a metaphor and then the translation of it. Like it's like a mashal nimshal. It's a
Mhm.
way to like then take it and connect it to life. Like
Yeah.
I was talking to my mother before about what, you know, how we're planning to leave, we hope. And I was like, and yeah, and I made a video yesterday for the workshop that I'm giving, and I told him about this bottle of wine, and she's like, and you also should have told him it's like Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, mom, but that's kind of not what I was trying to tell him, because I was saying with the wine, you never know what you're going to get until you ask. And by the way, I promised you the answer to the video. I did get the wine bottle open. I walked over to the carton and they opened it for me. I could have just sat there saying, oh, well, sitting at sunset, full bottle of
Yeah.
wine. That's an important thing. And that's why you need an ask. And we'll get to the ask in it. You never know what you're going to get until you ask. If you don't ask,
Really.
there's always no. So there you go.
And if you ask, you may get such a amazing story. And even if you say, like, it's just how, you know, someone helped you open a bottle of wine and change the whole evening. Or, I mean, we really, as you said, and I'm taking it in and emphasizing it, make sure to search or scout for the little lessons in the little stories in life. They can
Little and big, little and big.
little and big, little and big.
Because these things
Mhm.
are so significant, because we all are storytellers. Storytelling is one of the only things that every culture, every ethnicity, every religion
Yeah,
has in common. That and food. We all tell stories and we all eat. Sometimes we eat while we tell stories, or vice versa. And
works well together.
or together,
Yeah,
hopefully not with your mouth full, but it's what
yeah,
connects us as humans. It's what makes us the most human. And kids learn to talk through
yeah.
stories. My girls, who are now 12 and 9, when they were around 2, they would take books and like pretend they were reading. And they would sit there reciting stories they've heard from us. And I realized that what they were doing is they were working out language.
Mhm.
They we're working out how to communicate with the world. And we learned this because the basic communication our parents start with is telling us stories. They don't
Yeah.
sit reading us the Wall Street Journal. I hope not. That would be a little bit traumatic for little brains. But if they tell us stories, they read us stories, we tell stories, we
Yeah.
see how our whole day goes in stories. How many of you have had to find a story over the past few days to tell your kids, to tell yourself, to tell your employer, to
So we
tell your
use it all the time, just not necessarily
and
when we want to pitch.
but that's
Um,
exactly when you should
mhm.
be using it. That
Exactly.
natural connection. And it's also your elevator pitches. Now, one of the biggest struggles, by the way, at Stanford, and I work with these brilliant, incredible business school
Mhm.
master's students. One of the biggest things they come to me to work on, you want to take a guess?
Storytelling, pitching.
No, not storytelling, not
Yeah.
just pitch. That's too obvious. It's
What, finding a
how
job?
do I introduce myself
Mm.
in at the beginning of the year, they're having coffee chats with their
Yeah.
peers, with their people in the second year, with potential employers, at
Mhm.
networking. They're always having these cocktail parties. So how do I introduce myself? And then how do I create authentic small talk? I mean, I'll recommend they read your book now that it's
Mhm.
out. But for them, and what I
The
realized is
super connectors playbook. Yeah.
what I realized is that we basically have lost the art of small talk and storytelling because of COVID, because of screens,
Yeah.
and because of remote work. These kids, remember, they were probably back in college
Mhm.
and they took most of their courses online. Their first jobs were fully remote.
Mhm.
And only recently, these past 2 years, have we come back to in person, and not everyone. And they're at a loss of how to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And I say to them, find what you have in common. Just in this last week alone, you've had this and you had that and you had that. Start talking about something that connects you, and that will lead to more. And then get really curious, ask them questions, be interested in them. And then you'll
Exactly.
realize, oh, you did that. I did that. Oh, do you know so and so? Oh my gosh, we have a connection. This is
Mhm.
wonderful. Maybe we'll be friends, and maybe one day we'll be business associates. The head of Sequoia,
Mhm.
Rudolph, I forgot his last name, God help me. He came to speak at Stanford. He's a
Yeah.
Stanford GSB alum 20 years ago. And
Mhm.
some like his classmates are all like big shots in Uber and OpenAI. And they were all recording messages for him and basically telling
Mhm.
him he met his wife there. And
Yeah.
it's like you see this tribe that's being created
Yeah.
there for life. And
Exactly.
something so similar here in Israel, that we all know each other from the army or from jobs we did or from here or from there.
Exactly.
And it's a beautiful way to network and to tell stories and to connect to people. And I know
It's
I'm
the
speaking on your turf now, but it's all very connected. The
No,
story.
but we're all doing it. We all do it all the time. But what you and what and you and I, what we're trying to do, again, it's overlapping, but still in our own way. It's not the same. But we want to make sure people will connect better. People will fulfill themselves. People will succeed. And I believe, and you, I'm sure you too, that people who are, succeeding, fulfilling themselves, they're happier. They're contributing more to society. They're doing more good in the world. And it all starts with just knowing how to tell a story, which kind of sounds funny, but I think that's great.
Roloff Bote, before I forget, it's Roloff Bote. Such a great guy, South African, super. Anyway, sorry.
That's the Sequoia guy.
Yeah.
I just want to add, I cannot agree more about the power of common ground, because we do feel connected to people who remind us of ourselves. And I have this, what I like to call the 4 Ps, which I talk about quite a lot. It's basically the 4 Ps of common ground. When you're not sure what to talk to people about, you use the 4 main topics: passions, people, places, and present. So passions is, it's food, is hobbies, is your next vacation. People light up when they talk about
Love
their
that.
passion. Look how you and I are lighted up.
Oh my gosh.
People is either people we know or people we admire, like I don't know,
Roloff
big shots in the town.
or Sean
Places,
McGuire, who is a partner at
yeah,
Sequoia, who has been one of our biggest, most amazing advocates. I suggest you all follow him on Twitter. If you're not, he's Jewish, which is crazy because
yeah.
Sean McGuire is not Jewish. But he
Another
is
common ground.
so outspoken in favor of Israel.
Yeah.
He invested in Kela recently. He's like one of our biggest champions, and we need to like have his back as well.
So he's under people we admire, like John McGuire from Sequoia. Then we have places we've been to, studied, worked at, visited, and then present, what happens right now, the weather, the situation, the Big Brother on TV or whatever. So
Or
passions,
being
places,
attacked by
people,
a guy.
present.
Hey.
Exactly. So this has been a great point. And now let's talk a bit about the difference between men and women. Now, you have worked with so many founders, male and women, and we know, we can say, I would say for sure that everyone experience, or most people experience, imposter syndrome, but it's more, there is a bigger tendency to women. Yet, how would you suggest to show authentic confidence? Eventually, your confidence is also how you present your story, what you're saying, and while you're pitching, and how to share achievements, but without feeling or sounding arrogant or bragging in a way that will take it to a negative impression rather than a good one.
Okay, so I give a whole workshop on that. It's called the X Factor, about how we find our unique talents and skills, stories and anecdotes that prove that we bring them to the table, and how that serves the needs of the company we want to work for, the company we want to be promoted in or get a raise in. Like, it's a whole art. But I will just say this. We grew up, and this is especially women, not just, we grew up with this state of mind. It's like, it's not polite to toot your own horn, or my least favorite sentence in Hebrew, to translate that, it basically means the baker can't brag about his own dough. And I say, why not? Why not? You make this incredible dough. You should be so proud of it. Objectively, people are eating it and saying, oh my God, this is the most amazing bolekas or cake or whatever. Why shouldn't you take pride and own it? Own it. So if it's real, and if you're not making it up, and if you have the experience and the chops to prove it, and you can wrap it in a story. So what I usually do in this workshop is we'll do a whole thing on identifying our talents and our skills, where there's a difference. Talents are what we were born with. I'm a born bullshitter. I'm a born I didn't know I even had these talents all along until later in life. I'm a great actress. I'm a great people person. Like, I can pull out my talents, and then skills along the way that I've honed, understanding technology, putting stories together on the spot, like, lots of things like that. And then I can pull out a lot of different stories to prove these points, so that there's proof there. So, like, in an interview, if they ask you, so tell me about yourself, you don't just have to say, I was born here, I went to school there, I grew up there, I have this many kids, I've worked for 20 years doing this.
To be very dry and like a shopping list.
So then what I'll ask people is, okay, so you're this amazing recruiter. When's the first time you realized about yourself that you had an eye for people? And usually there's some kind of story. Oh, when I was in second grade, my mom said that, like, I knew how to, like, be the wisest about the kids in class, and, like, I had observations. She couldn't believe it. I mean, so you look for these moments, and then I would start out from there. So, like, why do you want to work here? Well, I've been a recruiter since I was 8 years old. What's funny is my mom said I used to have conversations with her, telling her about people in class with observations that she'd just be like, oh my God, where are you getting this from? And she's like, and I'd be like, yeah, I just saw it. I'm making this up, by the way, totally. But think about that. And then you say, and that has carried me through my career. I was lucky enough to find something to be able to make a living of being, observant about people. And I have this eye for spotting talent. And I know how to match the job to the person. I know how to bring out the best in them. I know how to shift through all the noise. And you find that story to talk about your talents and your skills, and that will make it memorable. That's why it's called sticking to my story. Sticking to my story has several meanings. It's like, it's my story, I'm sticking to it, but it's also the stickiness that a story has. Do you know what percent people remember of a presentation? Do you have any idea, anyone?
About 10% or so?
Close. It's about 6%.
Yeah. And how long?
It's not even how long, but we have the power to decide what 6% they're going to take away. If we stick it to a story, then that's going to be what they take away.
I love it.
Give them a bunch of numbers and facts and figures and quantum and blockchain and all of that stuff. Now, think about it this way. Let's say the war is over, we're all back together, and I invite all of you to come to my house in Silicon Valley for dinner. And I put out a chunk of raw meat. Sorry, all the vegans out there. A bag of uncooked rice, some spices, some oils. And I say, bon appetit.
Mm-hmm.
Not much of a meal.
Yeah.
But I take all of those ingredients and I spend a few hours lovingly seasoning them, cooking them, prepping them, and then I serve you some beautiful roast with rice and vegetables and seasoned to perfection. Then it's a feast.
Yeah.
Same thing, but it went through this process, and that's what storytelling does.
I love it.
It takes
I love it.
all of the different components and synergizes it together. And it makes it like, wow. And I hear, by the way, my partner
Yeah.
in life, partner in crime, is a founder. And we sit in, rooms next to each other. And I'm kind of, we met because he hired me to write his pitch.
Amazing story.
And here we are. It's like he actually paid me for the first engagement. It's been like my longest and most annoying but definitely has perks. But like I hear him when he has the confidence in his pitches, and the more you go, and I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, he's so good. He's gotten so good at this, and it takes
Yeah.
time. Takes rapport, but he'll explain it slightly differently to different investors. And one is from Australia, and then he's speaking to the Japanese guys, and then he's speaking to this, and he's able to now. He's done it for long enough, and he's raised one round, and now he's working on the second one. That he has fun with it, and he's
Yeah.
like, this is his favorite part. He hates writing the messages, but once it's written, thank you.
Thank you.
Then deliver it and
Yeah.
make it his own. And that's when the beauty comes in, and that's the synergy of it. It all comes together.
And I love the passion that you share. So it's also, and you can learn so much just from how you're answering and conveying the messages here. It's you're telling a lot of
I got
stories.
to keep my own champagne,
And wine, but you take in a lot of big, like you share a lot of stories, small or small anecdotes, or bigger stories, like you shared about how you met as a part of the conversation of what he's doing. But also, you're very I don't know if I would say theatric, but you emphasize the right things. You use your hands. I mean, we see that you love you're passionate and you share it, you deliver it in such a beautiful way. And I'm saying it because I want you to look at how she even answers the question, how she's being interviewed here. It's a really masterclass just to watch how you do it. And with that in mind, I'll even share, I'll ask my next question with a story. Many years ago, when I wasn't self-employed, I was working for a company in the sports tech industry, and our board member was the ex-CMO of Adidas, a dear friend until today. And many times he taught me one of my biggest lessons in my career when it comes to sharing information and branding. He was so upset when working with different Israeli startups and companies, and the numbers were wrong or were inconsistent. And I will never forget, he always told me, you Israelis, is a code name, you have to stop over promising and under delivering. You have to be consistent with the numbers. He really freaked out. And at the beginning, I was like, okay, I saw that he keep on saying it. And this really stuck into my brain. Understand, okay, I want to share information. I want to make sure it's right. But what is the difference between sharing the right information to exaggerating? How do I make sure my storytelling, obviously data is data. It's either right or wrong. But how do I make sure I don't cover the data in an exaggerated story?
Okay, so first of all, I want to make something very, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Get in really close here. Storytelling is not lying.
Exactly.
We are not Elizabeth Holmes. We never lie about our data. Let go of vanity metrics. You will be found out. It is very easy to take a click farm and show that you have clicks or whatever. Don't do it. Do not do it. You can borrow from the future to fuel your vision. We can talk about the vision statement also if you want. But you will be found out. And when you hurt your credibility, everyone will know about it. Investors talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the Israeli startup ecosystem is small, the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem is small. And when you get a bad name, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for women, we're scrutinized even more with our numbers. We need to know our numbers inside and out. It's an unfair kind of double standard, but just know that and arm yourself with it, because women are fabulous founders, and you need to just be able to really be under the pump more than others would be. So let's start with that. And second of all, you said overpromise, underdeliver. That should be the absolute opposite. Always be conservative with your estimates. Worst case, you'll surprise them. However, and this sometimes I have a problem with my
Mhm.
husband. He will like say, "Oh, but that's not important enough, or that's not whatever." Like, so you have to be able to pull out your traction and your achievements, whether it's LOIs, whether it's a pipeline valued at 500K, whether it's testimonials or something that a gushpanka someone has given you. A lot of these things do carry weight, and you need to be able to talk about them, because sometimes people say I have no traction, and I ask them and then they're like, oh well, maybe I do actually have traction. So you need to be able to not undersell
Mhm.
yourself much at the same time. Now, it's not just about the technology. It's about a lot of things around it. They're not just looking for technologists. They're looking for all around great founders who are great humans that understand their business inside and out. But here's the one thing that I think Israeli startups struggle with the most.
Mhm.
There's a vicious rumor out there that we tend to be a bit pushy and arrogant. I have no idea who started it. I know
Shocking.
I'm talking you. Yeah. Now, to us, what seems just like yalla vikuchim v'mdabrim v'tonim, to other people seems like fighting, arguing, and being arrogant. And that does not go over well. And the further west you go, the less well it goes over. So when I made it to Silicon Valley, having grown up on the East Coast and spent most of my life in Israel, I suddenly was in culture shock with how California and West Coast work. Like, everything's like, oh my God, amazing, awesome, terrific, totally going to do this, totally into it, totally this. And then you'll never hear from the person again.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, what the hell happened? They were so excited. And that's just their way of not saying no. Nobody wants to say no to a great opportunity. And that's where you don't get mad. You put them on the update list. And then you keep updating them about your achievements. And then don't be surprised if eventually you hear back and say, hey, buddy, congrats on the round. We should talk. And don't be like, oh, no, you come. No, you come. No, don't be Israeli. Be gracious and say, that would be fabulous. We might have a little bit of
Yeah.
room left in our round. We'd love to talk. So be smart. Don't be
Yeah.
right. Be smart. Be strategic. Play the long game. And another thing, be coachable. Two of Johnny's investors are very high profile people from the entertainment industry. And they were the first money in, but they have given him more in advice and in connections. They're the kind of people that'll pick up the phone, and everyone from Snoop Dogg to Master P to Selena Gomez will answer the phone and
Mhm.
take an intro, which is invaluable. But the reason he attracts people like this is he always says, I'm Israeli. I don't know a lot about this and this and this. I'm here to learn. I'm here. I'm open to your advice. And that's what people like to
Beautiful.
hear. You have to be coachable. So one little tip I've picked up in Silicon Valley, bring a notebook, an actual physical notebook and pen. If you have an investor meeting,
Mhm.
and if you're lucky enough for them to give you feedback, take notes, actual written notes, not on your phone, not on your computer, not your co-founder, because it shows them,
So important.
it
Yeah.
signals to them that, wow, this person is here to listen.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to just throw their money at you and leave. He has a call with them every single Sunday, and we have Sundays off, remember. They
Mhm.
take an hour out of their Sunday and meet with
Yeah.
him every single week for over a year now, for a year and 2 months.
Mhm.
And it's unfreaking believable to me. That's who you want to attract, and you attract it not by being Israeli and knowing it all. You attract
Yeah.
it by shutting your mouth. I know it's hard. I've lived in Israel long enough that I have that problem. I talk way too much. Listening,
Listen.
taking it in, not
Take
arguing,
in. Yeah.
not feeling attacked if they say that something isn't working, contemplating. We have this deal. There was a line on a show that we watched, and it was like, I'll get back to you in 48 hours. So sometimes we'll jokingly say that to each other when we don't agree, just to kind of like diffuse
Yeah.
the situation. So be like, thank you for that. And, we'll talk about it. Don't right away negate them.
Yeah. This is such an important tip. And this is, again, an insider tip. You learn it in the hard way or in being there. And I want to take us a step earlier. You talked a lot about investors and how to deal with them and how to, again, be coachable and so on. But what's the right way to send a pitch deck to an investor and write an email that gets them to answer you and want to open it, because that's even earlier before you
have
get
a
to
lot,
tell the
I
story
have a
and
lot
stand
of
there.
insights. I have a lot of insights because I have
Yeah.
been taken over his investor relations the past few months, because he closed one round and he's already opened the other. And I don't know how founders do it, quite honestly, if you don't have somebody dedicated to it, because he's so busy closing deals and managing product. I mean, when you're an early stage startup, you're doing everything as a CEO. So I have a lot of insights on that. First of all, you'd be surprised how many cold emails get answered. And they usually get answered with, great, here's our intake form, fill it out,
Yeah.
and let me know. And everyone has something different. So what I've done is I've created a Google Doc with the answers, the long answers, the short answers, the this answer, the that, a link to the doc, a link to his LinkedIn, a link to this, a link to that. Everything's right there and very nagish, so that
Yeah.
I can populate it fast, and then I will send them back and say, great, I filled it out. Thanks. I mean, I have to remember to sign Johnny and not Donna, but and then then you might not hear back a couple days. Then I'll follow up. Hey, did you get a chance to review it? Want to schedule a session? You'd be surprised how many times then they followed up to do it. Don't expect them to just follow up with you. And then sometimes it might be, thanks, this is not in our scope, or thanks, talk to us when you reach a certain point. And then we save all those connections because we will come back to them eventually.
Exactly.
But when you write an email, and that's where one of my specialties comes in, when you write the blurb, you're basically telling them a mini version of your pitch deck. So writing a pitch deck, which is what I do day in and day out, you're writing the story, and then you can choose it, turn it into different formats. So you start off, obviously you introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Donna Griffit, CEO of Zuli.ai, and we're solving one of the biggest pains in the AI industry today, and that's AI and IP. So start off with something boom and exciting. Then talk a little bit about the problem, 2 lines about the solution, and then traction. We've already signed X, and we've done a launch with Chicago Bulls, and we've done this, and we've done that.
Beautiful.
Here's the link to our deck. We'd love to show you in more detail what we're up to. Let me know when you'd like to schedule a call.
So can you repeat it again? You said tagline?
Your vision statement.
Vision?
Like you are, get them excited. And you got to play around with that sometimes and see what's working. I have a bunch of different versions. We have an evolving document that has gone through a lot of different iterations through it. And I can look back on the old iterations. It's crazy, and I keep them just to look back on as they pivot, as they move forward, as they evolve as a company.
Yeah.
And then a little bit about the problem, just a few lines, 2 lines maybe about the problem, 2 or 3 lines about the solution, and then the proof is in the pudding. So far, we already have had our first revenue month in March. We've got a pipeline valued at between 500K and 20 million because there's some big deal brewing there. We've got over 3,000, so it's tell them like 5 exciting traction points.
Yeah.
And then a call to action. We already,
so you bring all the good stuff, the important stuff on the table.
After closing a pre-seed of over $1 million, we've already opened our seed. We have, X amount allocated. Love to talk to you about this. So you're touching on their FOMO. Investors suffer from acute FOMO-itis. If you don't know what FOMO stands for, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to miss out on the next big deal. That's why deals like FTX get done.
That's the secret.
One of our nice Jewish boys. I saw that happening, and it was crazy because all of the big VCs in Silicon Valley were in on that deal, and they all lost their shirts, and it completely decimated the blockchain and crypto space since then. It's been 3 years. Nobody wants to hear the word blockchain, and nobody wants to hear the word crypto. Nobody.
Yeah.
Now, I met somebody that was on a diligence team for it, and she said it was so full of holes that it couldn't hold water. But some people just didn't see that because they're like, well, if they're in and they're in and they're in, somebody must have done due diligence. We better get in on this deal. And that
exactly
to your advantage, because if there is heat in your space, someone's gotten big investments, someone's been acquired.
Create the FOMO. Yeah.
Then you can be like, well, this competitor and that competitor's acquired. Here's where we're different. And you never knock your competition. Never be like, oh, well,
never.
They're great. Never. I've seen it happen before.
No, that's really bad. Really bad.
Always, another thing that we tend to do is give it to people very straight. Don't do that in the US,
Yeah.
especially in Silicon Valley. People appreciate candor, but they get to know you a little bit more, get past that chispus of the sabra and get to the sweetness
Mhm.
a little bit before you can, la ritzdachkot. It took me a long
Yeah.
time. I moved here when I was 11. It took me a long time to grow thick
It's
enough
basically
skin.
gradually build a relationship with them. Let it grow. Let it, evolve.
Well, it's like any kind of dating or marriage.
Yeah.
At first, you're all dressing up and you're all, showing just your best side. And then little by little, the person sees you when you're sick, and they see you when you travel, and they see you first thing in the morning with no makeup on, and they when they love you with all the flaws, but you
Yeah.
don't want to show up with
She
all of
want
the
to build
flaws.
it.
Throw them. Well, if you're gonna love me, you're gonna love all of me, and be like, oh, yay.
Yeah.
That's a little bit much for me.
And let's talk about that. So we talked about really understanding who you are and love us and connect to the investors. Again, this is a relationship, sometimes even stronger than marriage. But let's talk about the hottest and one of the most, I would say, biggest dilemmas recently with in the age of AI, which is about authenticity. So we can create our pitch and we can create our storytelling and everything with all kind of ChatGPT or AI tools, which is amazing. But we could still missing our authenticity. And how can founders use AI to build a sharp pitch without losing their personal voice and bringing who they are?
Well, that's why I created Deck Check, because I can't be in all places at once.
Yeah.
So Deck Check will analyze your deck, score it, and give you tips on how to improve it. However, if you want to create yourself, um, so my chat GPT is called Jarvis. He calls me Donna GPT. How did I discover we knew each other? At some point, I asked him, I just wanted to, I was doing like a little competitive analysis, and I'm like, who are the top storytellers for startups? And he made me a list, and then he's like, and you, of course. And he rattles off. I'm like, wait, you know me? He's like, of course. I was
Yeah.
like, floored. Just
Amazing.
we've had this very personal relationship. I mean, it's not like my best friend or whatever, but I've personalized it to a way that when I ask him to review something that I've written, or I ask him to draft something for me, I'll say, okay, I want you to write it. And then I'm very, very specific with my prompt. And then I'm like, write it in the Donna Griffit style, no emojis, very, light, but also serious. Bring me only sources that are reliable sources. And I'm very, very specific with it. And then I'll go back and I'll refine it. And I will
Mhm.
check the sources, and I will make sure that these are things that are legit. Now, what's great is it's a great starting point. It's like having a sous chef if we go back to the meal. So now I have a
Yeah.
sous chef who prep all the vegetables for me and soak the rice for me and trim the fat from the meat. And that saves me a lot of time to be able to come in and work my magic. Now, in the last chapter of my book, which came out February 23, I handed in the first draft the same month that OpenAI came out.
Mhm.
And I wrote the last chapter, Final Thoughts, What's the Future of Storytelling for Startups, with what was then Jasper, and then
Mhm.
revised it when OpenAI came out and with ChatGPT. It was GPT-3 then.
Yeah.
It basically said, how does AI affect the future of storytelling? And what they told me was that we are the humans. We experience life. We experience the stories. We have a holistic view, and that's something they will never have as machines. They can help aggregate facts. They can help design it. They can help find sources
Exactly.
to research. But we're the ones with the life experience that they can maybe riff off of. But what's ours is ours. So
And amen. I mean,
use AI, use it to help you, but keep it authentic, keep it real. But you do need to know
exactly.
your AI moat. You do need to be able to say why you will outlast AI with your startup. That's extremely important.
Exactly. And as you said, really understanding how to use it as a, again, supportive tool, not taking away our humanity, and that's our strength. And the ChatGPT or the tools will never be as human as us. So I mean, really, I'm really taking it in because I feel and I see how people losing themselves, their identity through the usage of AI, and it scares me a lot. And obviously, again, it's not a competitive advantage. Now, before we move on, there's some questions from our watchers and audience and listeners. So you're welcome to write more questions. There is a question from Dovi Lipton who says, people talk a lot about stories and I often don't understand what they mean. I get the story structure, this happened, but it feels like sometimes when people say stories, they mean some sort of linear thesis. Like for Cure Life, one type of story is Ron's father was diagnosed, but the other type they refer to is more like diabetics don't always need to live in despair. Can you speak about the second type of story, how to design such
So
stories?
when we're talking about our opening
Great
story, which
question.
is your
Mhm,
problem or your opportunity, your
mhm.
carrot or your stick, the stick being the problem, which would, you're the Tylenol or the Acamol for, and your carrot, the vitamin. You're the vitamin for an audience. And I always say
Yeah,
to people, what's better? It doesn't matter. It's how you tell it. You just want to tell it as a story.
yeah.
My personal preference is an origin story, and that will always be the question. The first question I'll ask clients
Yeah.
is, how did you come up with this idea?
Mhm,
Usually, I'd say 85% of the time, there's a fascinating story that just needs to be shaped and teased out. It might not be the moment that they thought of it, but it might be the process. It might
mhm,
be something interesting that's happened recently. It might be something from their last job. And we can craft that story in a very compelling way. Another kind would be, now, I don't like just starting with the stats. That's your transition.
mhm,
Find a story. Talk about a former client or a current client of yours and talk about what their miserable lives before they met you and what was going on with them, and then open it to a much bigger market.
mhm,
Talk to us about, like, I worked many years ago with one of the cyber companies, and they told me that most of the big hacks that happen in stores like Target happen because of third-party vendors. And in Target, they were hacked because of an HVAC vendor,
mhm.
their air conditioning, and their
Yeah.
systems were hacked. So that is like, if you have a golden nugget of something that will blow their minds, bring that in, show them something new that they didn't know. It could be a story about that. It could be a story about the world at large. So right
Yeah.
now, there's going to be a huge, this is my prediction. You can count me on this, a huge, massive, as if it wasn't already there, uptick. You guess what I'm going to say, in what technology? Defense tech. We are
Defense tech.
already seeing a
For
massive
sure.
Tela coming out with their $100 million raise. And I worked with another company called R2, they're Israeli. But today, I can promise you that investors are evaluating deals in the defense tech realm. And
Yeah.
we're going to tell the stories behind the scenes of the incredible ways that Israel stopped attacks, and the
Mhm,
incredible ways that we didn't, and all the behind the scenes, and the freaking incredible tales
mhm,
of Assad that I think will only start to come out, all of them, and like why they were able to leverage that. And what's
mhm.
funny is we've been watching Harosh, my husband and I, for the past few months, and then here we are living it basically. Um, and
Life is greater than any Hollywood storytelling, in many ways.
but I mean, we thought the beepers were big. Look at this. This is just
I'm
unbelievable.
waiting for the Hollywood movie on the Big First, by the way.
My God,
But
it's just getting more and more
yeah.
incredible. And we have lived in one of the most, like, I feel sometimes like we've taken a train back in time to 1938 in Berlin, and living
Mhm,
in the US and seeing firsthand the anti-Semitism. I don't know if you guys realize how that's our eighth battlefield and how
mhm,
prevalent it is. And we're dealing with that there and seeing it come to life and seeing it all over. And it's like mind boggling. But I
mhm,
truly believe that when this is all over, we will all emerge stronger and the world
mhm.
will eventually see the truth. But there's going to be, so every time we have a big crisis in the world,
Yeah.
new problems, new solutions. COVID,
New stories.
solutions for remote work, for
Yeah.
learning. May we never have to do that again. Oh God. It brought us solutions for supply chain. It brought us solutions for health tech, digital health. It brought us solutions because people were ready to adopt it. Look now what's going on in the world. What are people ready to
Yeah.
adopt? What are they ready to adopt? And that's where you want to take your startup. If you
And
can aid your technology in solving the world's biggest problems right now, somehow, timely, you're a winner. You're going to win because of the difficult times. And that is making limoncello out of lemons.
And this is actually the best way to summarize and finish this talk. Any challenge, any hurdle, any hard times is actually such a great opportunity for emerging ideas, solutions, technologies, startups that will change the world for the better. Donna Griffit, I can't thank you enough for being with us, even though, we meant to meet in person. Thank you so much
Wait,
for
this is near
sharing.
the end of the evening, guys. Don't go. We're just getting
No,
started.
it's not the end of the evening, it's just the end of this part. Now I'm
Thank
calling
you. And you guys
Shachal
are
back.
about to get on the grill, as we call it with Icon. So, yes, thank you,
Shachal,
Liron.
join us in. I want to really thank you so much, and let's continue with the evening. It's amazing, and again, if you can show your book again, and obviously anyone who wants to connect with you, then your LinkedIn is Donna Griffith, your
Also,
website.
I'm gonna put the
Yeah.
deck link. Actually, can I share my screen for one sec? Let me do a little share screen.
So I'll just say thank you while you're doing it, and Shachar comes in. I want to thank everybody. I'm Liron Glickman, a global business development, personal branding, and networking expert, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to interview amazing people like yourself. And I'll let you present it, and Shachar will take on from here for the next part of our evening. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Liron. I can't wait to
Thank you
hug
so much.
and hopefully you'll make it to
Big
the stage.
hugs.
Big
This
hug.
is always
Thanks.
our moment on stage when we bring all the people, to be with us.
Bring them in.
Bring
Are
a
you guys
picture of
seeing
the
my screen, by the way? Are we seeing it?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, so just to give a little preface on this before I hand it over to Shachal, this is Donna GPT. This is my AI twin, and it's private, it's free. I mean, private as it can be, being with the back end of OpenAI, but I've trained this system to analyze your deck according to my formula, give you a score, and then give you what can be improved. So it's a great tool. I'm really happy to, have it out there for people. And sometimes people will just like keep trying and just not hit it. And then they'll just contact me and say, hey, I need to have a session with you. So any of you mentioning Startup Grind in this very special evening, if you do need my services, you'll get a very special price. So do mention this. So, but in the meantime, feel free to try Deck Check. If it's not uploading, either A, you have a very long name of the covet of the file, so change it, or B, you're so out of whack that you're choking the system, and it's like you're going to need to do some work on it before. So there you go.